Hello, I'm Anthony David Hobbs, and this is my review of the 1990 film Gremlins 2, The New Batch. Yes, this is the Ladybird book version. Oh no, it's not, it's the Buzz book version. Okay, it's an imitation Ladybird book. Anyway, the point is, this is the first half of the film, Don't Get Wet, and the second book was called Midnight Feast, yeah. There we have the star, if you like, you get Gizmo there, in a little toolbox there. And, well, basically, in my opinion, Gremlins 2 was better than the first one. The general public would disagree with that. No, the first one was a blockbuster. Gremlins 2 was only mildly successful. But, okay, the reason I like the second one better is because the first one terrified me as a child, you know. These horrible monsters going around destroying things and killing people. As Gremlins 2, they toned down the horror. In other words, it's a horror comedy, but more focuses on the comedy. In other words, it was too silly to be scary, yes. So when I was 10 years old, I saw Gremlins 2, and, well, the Gremlins don't kill anyone, basically. They bite and scratch a lot and smash and destroy things everywhere, but they don't actually commit murder on a really grand scale. Yes, they don't commit mass murder. The electric gremlin kills the nasty scientist bloke, but it's not. He's killed in like a silly way, not a scary way. So that makes it okay, yes. In other words, there is violence, but it's all very silly cartoon violence. You know, it's too silly to be taken seriously. It's just like a live-action cartoon, yeah. And oh, just a little note about the first Gremlins film. The Chinese boy that sells Gizmo to the inventor against his grandfather's wishes, he knows what happens if you break the first rule. Keep him away from bright lights, because bright light will kill Gizmo, yeah. He doesn't know what happens if you break the other two rules. Don't get him wet and never feed him after midnight. He doesn't know what happens, just that they are rules. So there's this hint of mystery. You don't know what's going to happen if those rules are broken, yeah. A shame, really, because he sold Gizmo. His justification for it was that they badly need the money. If he'd known what happens if you get him wet, he could have mass-produced a whole load of Mogwai and sold a different one every week. Yes, made a lot more money. $200 each, yeah. So yes, it's a shame he didn't know what the rules would do, yeah. That's the only drawback. By Gremlins 2, we know what happens if you break all the rules, so there isn't that hint of mystery, but never mind. Yeah. Gremlins 2 is better, but you do need to see the first one to fully understand what's going on. Like, for instance, Gizmo, Billy recognises him, of course, but his girlfriend doesn't recognise when it's the wrong Mogwai. There's another Mogwai that looks like Gizmo. His girlfriend Kate doesn't recognise that one, but of course Billy does, yeah. So he has more experience, he knows what makes them tick and everything, yeah. And there are little nods to the first film. When Gizmo's coming out the toolbox here, that's like a nod to when he first comes out the box. When we see him in the first film, like that box from the Chinatown. And when they put pots and pans in the microwave and make it explode, that's a nod to the first one when a gremlin is fried alive inside a microwave, yeah. However, okay, nitpick time. When the character of Kate, played by Phoebe Cates, her father was killed at Christmas time, which was very sad indeed, they have a little nod to that, where something horrible happened to her on Abraham Lincoln's birthday. I didn't like that. I thought, no, one tragic story was enough. Don't have another one in the second one. So you can never mention Christmas to her, and you can never mention Abraham Lincoln to her, because she associates that with something traumatic. Oh, good grief, is there anything you're allowed to mention? Yeah. So I didn't like that they did that, no. And it's very cartoony. In fact, in the opening sequence, before the credits have even started, we see Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny give like a little intro to the film. Yeah. Yes, because we're going to see a lot of cartoon violence in this story, even though it's live action, yeah. And it is live action, yes. It's impressive to see these amazing state-of-the-art animatronic puppets and everything. Yeah, it's all live action. Okay, there's one scene where it's not live action. It's a stop motion for the bat creature gremlin. But you know what I mean. In general, 90% of all is live action, yeah. And in fact, Joe Dante himself was a bit reluctant to do to do a sequel, but the first one was such a huge success. It had lots of imitation stuff, like there was ghoulies, hobgoblins, critters, you know, munchies, all cashing in on the bandwagon, cashing in on the success of Gremlins, yeah. And people kept asking Joe Dante, when are we going to see another? When are we going to see a sequel? Yes. And Gremlins 2 is on a much bigger budget. Yes, there's much more detail in the creatures and everything, the sets and everything, all the special effects. Yes, it was on a bigger budget, and they just went crazy with it. Yes, it's just loads of Gremlins everywhere. Yeah. And okay, a bit more visual aid here. Here is Gizmo and the other Mogwai. This book hasn't aged that well. The quality isn't that good, but you get the gist of it. There, Gizmo looking scared, and the evil Mogwai. There's Mohawk, George, Lenny, and Daffy. They're never called that in the film. No, they're never called by name in the film. You have to read the book to know what the individual characters are called. And that's what they look like in Mogwai mode. And Mohawk has a tuft of hair on his head, like a mohawk. And here they're on Gremlin mode, and Mohawk has spikes on his head instead, yeah. And Frank Welker, who did voices of Gremlins in the first one, he does the voice of, yes, Mohawk. There they are, very creepy, horrible looking things. Because the theme of something really cute and cuddly turning into something grotesque, yeah. And there's more detail on these creatures than we had in the first film, yes. So they really went all out on the budget for this one. The comedy is more wacky and over the top, it's crazy, yeah. And we see more than what we saw before. In the first film, there's a leader of the Gremlins, yeah. In this one, we have two leaders. Originally, it's Mohawk, he gets killed, and then the Brain Gremlin replaces him as leader. Now, the Brain Gremlin is very funny indeed, because of course all the Gremlins, they're like dumb cavemen. They're very stupid and simple-minded. He drinks a brain potion and talks in an incredibly intellectual voice like that. Yeah, yes, it's weird seeing a Gremlin being really intellectual and talking a heck of a lot. Yeah, it's really odd. Yeah. But very funny indeed. Yes, the Brain Gremlin is great for comedic value. Yeah. So yes, lots of great funny gags and cameos. Yes, we have the Addams family bloke, Gomez Addams. He cameos in it. Jerry Goldsmith returns as composer. He cameos in it. Yeah. There's a real life film critic that cameos in it as well. And Grandpa Fred from the Munsters cameos in it. So yes, how cool is that if you were a filmmaker and people from your favourite TV shows when you were a kid could be in your film? How cool is that? It's like a whole load of ideas put together, yeah. They do break the fourth wall in this one, yes. We have a film critic saying, the movie Gremlins, re-released on video. It's a terrible movie, desperate for entertainment. It's awful, it's pitiful. And the Gremlins don't like that, so they attack him. And he goes, no, I've changed my mind, it's a great movie. The other classic example of breaking the fourth wall is when I saw the film in the cinema, and there's interference with the sound and the picture and flickering here and there and everything, I thought there was something genuinely wrong with the film. And then the picture disappears and it's just a blank screen. And then the silhouettes of the Gremlins appear and they're laughing. Oh, there's Gremlins in the theatre. They've tampered with the film projection. Yes, that made the audience laugh a lot. Yes, it has lots of great gags, yeah. And the Gremlins are not all identical. I mean, in the first one, they're all identical except for one. In this one, there's about 20 of them that are different, and all the rest are identical. We have the vegetable gremlin, we have the brain gremlin, the spider gremlin, the bat gremlin. Yes, all these strange chemicals they drink. Yes, it's just crazy, wacky, yeah. And very funny, very enjoyable. We think they're all going to be killed by sunlight, then they change that twist at the very end, something different kills them. A great cameo from Christopher Lee, who's well known for the Hammer film. So yes, he plays the creepy scientist, yeah. So yeah, it's overall a very enjoyable film. It gets it just right. It's not too scary for kids. A good horror comedy, yeah. And we have yes, this big question: should there be a third one? Well, that's a difficult question to answer really, because nowadays it's all CGI everywhere. Would it work if they did a third one? Well, I personally think if they did a third one, it should be live-action animatronic puppets like they did with the first two films. Because, yeah, that was part of the appeal of the look, yeah. Don't use CGI unless ultimately necessary, or don't use it at all. Make it all live-action puppets, yeah. And, well, Zach Galligan, the actor that plays the hero of the story, Billy Peltzer, yes, he's been asked a number of times, when are we going to see a third one? And he's like, well, it's not really up to me. But, yes, he'd be up for it if they did it. They could do something like Billy Peltzer is now a middle-aged man. He has grown-up children. They go on some sort of adventure and they have to attack Gremlins. And Billy Peltzer could be like their mentor. You know, he teaches them how to fight, how to beat the Gremlins, their weaknesses and everything. So yeah, that would be kind of cool. That could work. However, when you do sequels, we want to see more than what we saw before. And that's why Gremlins 2 is more outrageous and more wacky than the first one. But if they did a third one and made it even more outrageous than the second one, that would be overkill, wouldn't it? It would be too much, yeah. So instead of making it more over the top, no. Make Gremlins 3 less over the top than the second one. Tone it down and make it the same level as the first one. Yeah, I think that would work. And it could make the story a trilogy, make it come all full circle at the end. We could do something to end the whole saga, like, I don't know, they destroy a whole load of new Gremlins, and then Gizmo decides to leave planet Earth, he gets in his a spaceship or something that he's built, and then flies off back to the planet where he came from. Yeah, sort of end the saga, make everything come full circle, yeah. In the novel version of the first film, Gremlins, it tells you the Mogwai come from an alien planet. But in the first film and the second film, they don't specify where Gremlins come from. Do they come from another planet? Do they come from hell? Do they come from a magical dimension? Are they indigenous to planet Earth? It doesn't clearly specify in the film versions. Well, to give them a hint of mystery, to make them, strange and unusual and elemental, yes. You don't know what these things are, and you don't quite know what to expect, yeah. The actor that plays Mr. Wing, I have a picture of him here. In the first one, he takes Gizmo back, saying, you clearly can't look after him, you do not understand, you are not ready, you know. And he gives them a big moral lecture and everything, but he smokes a lot. And sadly, near the beginning of the second film, he dies from smoking too much. Yes, you can't lecture someone on morals if you smoke a lot, basically, yeah. And so this time, there's nobody to look after Gizmo, so yes, Billy looks after him. Does he do a good job? Well, he should never have left him alone, basically. Or certainly never in a place where there's water, yeah. So, it's not entirely Billy's fault that the Gremlins come back, basically, this time. Yes, he's more responsible, but all to no avail, yeah. And, okay, just a quick little joke about the rules. Bright lights kill these things, right? There's one scene where Gizmo, his face is right in front of a photocopier. A light that bright would definitely kill a Mogwai, yes. And there's one scene where lights go in front of one of the Gremlins' face, Mohawk, but it doesn't kill him, just annoys him, and he runs away. And then there's another bit, a camera flash goes on one Gremlin, and he instantly turns into a skeleton. So they sort of don't really abide by these rules properly, what the rules can and can't do, yeah. And of course the classic joke about you mustn't feed them after midnight. Okay, well what if a Mogwai went into a different time zone and ate? It's midnight somewhere, but does it count if he eats and it's not midnight in a different time zone? Yes, they make fun of their own rules in the film, yeah. Well, from what I can make out, maybe it's got something to do with your sleep pattern. Say, for instance, you went to bed at midnight. You mustn't have a snack a short time before you go to sleep, or a short time after you go to sleep. Maybe it's nothing to do with the clock or the projection of the sun. Maybe it's just to do with your sleep pattern, yeah. But then that just raises another question. If you ate after midnight, would it count if you've got jet lag? Well, it's a fantasy story, so you just let these rules roll over your head, yeah. To cut a long story short, Gremlins 2, not too scary for kids, so in my opinion it was the improved version of the first one. But because it didn't make as much money in return, they didn't do a third one, didn't do as much merchandise, and they're reluctant to do a third one. Well, if they're going to do a third one, they better hurry up, because yes, one day people will have lost interest in the franchise, so I think they should do a third one, but then don't do any more. I think 3 will be quite enough, yeah. Okay, thank you for watching. I'm Anthony Hobbs, and I'm never bored.